Cabbage rolls. Traditionally, they would be ground meat. Most of these things are ground meat recipes. As we say with these veggie variations, I'm not going to come here and make you a salad. That's not a veggie variation. That's just rabbit food, and you all know how to make salads. This is this good hearty stuff as an alternative. Cabbage rolls. You get the nice cabbage over there. You get the whole heads. You want to keep the head whole, and then just core it. Get a knife. I'm gonna see if I can get somebody to grab me a cabbage. Can you get me a green cabbage from over there? So what you're going to do when you boil it, you're going to take it, and you're going to core it. You're going to have your water boiling, nice salted water. You're going to flop your cabbage in there. The reason you're coring is that cabbage is like an onion. It's many, many, many layers. As soon as you get that core out of there, you put it in that boiling water, it's going to start to open up. So your leaves are going to start to float off. Aha! That was nice. It was a scenic tour. Da, 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 da. Here we go. They also have the red over there because of the phytonutrients in the red. It's a little more nutrient dense, but I just like the green. It's kind of what you would expect to have in a cabbage, so I went with the green. When I talk about coring, you're going to take your knife and you're just going to dig around in there to get that core out like you would coring an apple or anything else. If you're going to do a dumpling, you're going to core it out. When you put it in the water then, it's usually going to be this way. Have a couple of tongs, float it around, and these leaves are going to just start to separate. And as they do, you're going to have them in the water for a couple of minutes until they come out like this. It does take a couple of seconds, but this is almost translucent. This is one of the outers, and this is something from a little more inner. But they're nice and soft and they're pliable at this point, right? And this is what you're looking for, because if you don't cook them enough, they're going to break when you try to roll. You want them nice and soft, and as soon as you start baking, if you don't do them enough in the water, they're just going to be tough still. So we want to get them nice and wet. So just a little salted water, boil, pull apart. It takes a couple of minutes. And I just had a pan off to the side. I was shaking off the water and letting them cool. Don't stack them up because you don't want them to overcook. Just spread them out a little bit, let them cool down. And then you have that lovely, lovely little leaf here. You're going to notice that obviously you got the bigger... No, well, you don't take it out. You just do the swirl. So when you have it in your pot, and that's why I use one tong to kind of hold on to the cabbage, and another tong just to kind of help those leaves come off. And they're not going to be ready as soon as they come off, so you'll probably have to leave them in the water. Just pull them out and give a little check to make sure that they're soft. So it's doing itself in the pot. You're not trying to haul that.
How long will the whole process take?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
Tops. And it's like a flower, right? You're working your way in, working your way in, working your way in.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the center, these leaves are more tender to begin with, so they don't need as long. The outer leaves are obviously thicker, and they'll need a little more cooking time. But as you get on the inside, they can become a lot softer. When you get right down to the core, you want to cook the cabbage right through, because you get down to a certain size when you can't roll them anymore. It's just, it ain't worth your time. You're getting a tablespoon of stuff in there, whoop, and you're going to roll, and it's not worth it. But what you do with those inner leaves is you line your pan. I'm going to grab the cabbage right here. This is obviously, it's obviously not hot yet, so I'm going to plop it back in a second, but I want to pull one of these out so you see what I'm talking about. This is the finished product, obviously. So what I have the glass cooking pans, similar to this one here. Can you guys see that glass? Except it was a little larger. It was more like a 9 by 14 or some such measurement, about 2 inches deep. You take those inner leaves that are too small to roll, and you put them down on the bottom of the pan. Because if you just put your rolled cabbage down on the bottom, it's going to burn and stick. So this is giving you a nice layer. It's also augmenting that lovely cabbage taste. But this is going to prevent your cabbage rolls from sticking to the bottom of your pan. So now you got your cabbage all ready, you can start working on the mix. So you've got these leaves off to the side. Got the inner leaves lined on the bottom of your pan, and you're ready to go. Grapeseed oil, we've talked about our cooking. I like to use coconut oil or grapeseed because they have what we call a high burn point. They handle heat well and they don't go rancid. If you're using any polyunsaturated fats, so your corn, any of those miscellaneous kind of vegetable oils, they're going to be breaking down and they're going to be destructive when you get them in because they're going to be rancid. So if you use, to a lesser degree, olive oil, it's a monosaturated, so it holds its temperature a little better. But grapeseed and coconut oil are brilliant for cooking at a relatively high heat for a longer period of time because those oils will not break down. So they don't go rancid and they don't become free radicals in your blood. Canola, it's a monosaturate too, just like olive oil is, and I tend not to cook with those oils to any great degree. You'll see when we get to the other two, because I kind of have a Mediterranean flavor, that I mix olive oil with grapeseed every once in a while, just to up that heat threshold instead of cooking with it alone. Generally speaking, olive oil can be cooked with, but it will break down before coconut or grapeseed does. And just the property of olive oil, it tastes so nice raw that I tend to finish my foods with olive oil instead of cooking with the olive oil, because then you're getting, food is more about as much about flavor as it is about the health. So the health properties, as soon as you start cooking with olive oil, it will start to break down a little bit, so it's just not as healthy. So I take that into account when I'm doing my stuff. You can get away with it to a certain degree, but you're just safer. But like I say, the two recipes here for the first time, because I have a Mediterranean kind of feel for them, I cheated and used a little bit of olive oil because it does have a nice flavor. So grapeseed, in go the onions. We always start with our onions. You want to sweeten them up a little bit. So you have your pan, in with the olive oil or grapeseed, coconut. Butter, if you're cooking for a very short period of time. If it's clarified butter, it also has because it's a saturated fat, it also has a high heat threshold. Add your onions first, your celery, and your fennel. So we start with our root vegetables, and we're working our way towards the peppers and the things that don't take as long. I use shredded carrots, handy dandy tool.
Hey,
how you doing? We need more chairs. Paging.
Actually, I got it over. Do you have an extra sheet?
Why, yes, I do. Well, no, I do have an extra.
Oh, you put here.
Thanks. Cheers. You guys, no samples for you.
Yeah.
Good, that's more for you guys and me. And my wife wants me to bring some home, so that's always. So fennel, carrots, shredded carrot. Dicing carrot takes a really long time. Shredded carrot doesn't take a really long time, and it gets into the nice mix that we have here. It's nice because these are mixtures, these are stuffings. You don't have to worry too much about, when you do soups or you're doing something for display, you want the size to be all the same. Hackety-hack, nice and small. Carrot, because it breaks down. You don't want large chunks of food and things that you're using as stuffing or meatloaf, things like that, because you want them to bind and grip. The smaller, the better. Nice mushrooms, zucchini, 2 tablespoons of minced fresh garlic. They have really nice large garlic over here right now. Garlic just makes everything taste better, and it's usually medicinal. Fresh thyme. I choose fresh herbs when I can. Thyme is one of those herbs that you can add a little earlier in your cooking process because it is a little tougher. Mostly I finish my foods with the fresh herbs. You'll see that a little later on. So you're cooking, you're coming down here. We did the ambiguous add stock. This is a nice place for vegetarians to get chicken stock, for example, would really work well with this particular recipe. It's a nice place to get some of those amino acids and some of the benefits of animal product without it being prevalent. You're not eating meat at this point, but you're getting the benefits of something like that. If not, you can use vegetable stock, but try not to use water. As soon as you add water to something like this, you're just watering down your food. It's better to add a stock. Stocks have more nutrients in them and they have flavor. So don't water down your food. Put more flavor into it. Season with your salt and pepper, or pepper, close to the end, especially if you're using stock. Stock tends to be a little salty, so it's a nice thing to finish off with. Did I actually tell you when to put your brown rice in? I hope I did. Put the mixture in a bowl and cool. Add stock and cooked rice. So the reason I say cooked rice is, you know, you guys know how to cook, right? So use your ratios, use the pre-soaking techniques, and then measure out. And for most of the recipes, that's the way it is. You work with the cooked instead of the raw, because then the recipes are just longer than they need to be. So you put the rice in close to the end. What you're going to get at the end of the day is this mixture right here. Mixture. See? So we just have a nice kind of sticky, all those vegetables. You can pass it around. I'll even give you some spoons. As long as you don't double dip, you can have a little taste. No double dipping. Save me enough though. I do want to give you a little demo on how to actually do the roll. So that's a really nice mixture. I mean, you can just eat that by itself if you really wanted to. The same thing with the mixture for the Mediterranean. You can pretty much just have it. We'll keep your spoons because you're going to be sampling everything anyway. So as you're getting a little munch there, let that cool down a little bit because your starches are going to start to come together, and it makes it easier to handle when it's not piping hot, and it binds a little better because your starches have started to kind of coalesce. Your flavors are just going to come together. Now, I wish I had paprika, which I didn't at home. It's a really nice thing to add to this particular recipe. It's a little more traditional in that sense. And it would just kind of add to the flavor. Yes? Videographer saying no.
Yeah, I will I want the whole thing.
Okay, so here we go. I did this a couple of different ways. You can go on the board diagonally in this way, but it becomes hard to fold that core in, especially with these outer leaves. What I actually did is, you can see it's very hard. You get that big spine down the center there. Big spine down the center. What I did with the knife is you just come across and even that out a little bit. Because then it's going to be even with the rest. It's not going to have a big bump. It's just going to make it easier to roll. So the way I found to do it the easiest way to do it is to start with that big part close to you. This is one of the very outer. It's very green. It's very thick down here. I'm gonna give you a little. Then we have a little easy one in the middle. Take your mixture. Down into the center. Give it a little pat down. Depending on the size of, you want to put enough filling in whichever that suits the size of the leaf. Don't overstuff it because then it's not going to hold up very well when you try to roll it and put it in your pan. So we give a little bit of a roll and then a tuck. This is just a classic like a burrito wrapping. You fold in the edges and then come up. And you have that lovely little roll. All right? Then that would go, say we have our pan with our bed of leaves. Boom. This goes on top of the leaf. And because there's a couple of different ways to hit up cabbage rolls too. Some of the recipes that I look at when I do my research, they call for putting in raw rice. Some call for cooked rice. And obviously a lot of them online are all about the meat. But here at Veggie Variations, we don't do that kind of thing. So I use the cook because this is going to, you have better control over what's going on. You've seen the rice. You don't have to worry so much about your moisture, because rice is going to suck up any moisture when it's in its raw state when you're cooking. So the mixture would have to be a lot wetter. Because our rice is already cooked, kind of starched up there, we know exactly what's going on. You have complete control. And so that when you roll it up, you know, that's pretty much going to be what it is, and you're cutting down on your baking time. So you're saving energy for your oven, you're saving time for you. So you get all of these lovely little snuggle bunnies down into your pan, and traditionally the sauce that you pour over a cabbage roll is just a straight up kind of basic tomato sauce.